Today, we're going to give you a sneak peek of the Converge 2025 two-part lab called Mastering Tanium Automate. Welcome back to Tanium Tech Talks. We are your hosts, Ashley McGlone.
And Jesh Sachs. It is spooky season in the Northern Hemisphere, and for all of our Tanium friends, that means Converge season. Converge is going to be packed full of amazing people, content, and my favorite part, labs.
Our guest today is Sam Kinch. Now, you might have seen Sam on a previous video last year at Converge. I got to interview him and some of his peers and the special work that they do. You can scroll down. Well, we'll put a link to that in the show notes or scroll through the feed here. But anyway, Sam, welcome back to Tanium Tech Talks. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
My name is Sam Kinch. I'm an executive client advisor and federal field CTO for Tanium. What that really means is I bridge customer objectives with technology solutions that Tanium provides.
All right, Sam, I absolutely love it. So with your lab, can you just share the basics? What's the title of the lab? What can users expect if they join your lab at Converge this year?
Absolutely. This lab is actually a really interesting lab. It's one that we did last year at Converge. It resonated so well that we decided to do it again, but then up the tempo and some of the activities that we actually do with the lab. It is a two-part lab, so it actually bridges two 90-minute sessions. We take a break in between because we felt like 3 hours was a little bit long to keep people in the seat. It's a combined lecture. So there's a little bit at the top just to level set everybody on what automation is, what Automate is, how it actually is fundamental and foundational to what Tanium brings on the artificial intelligence side of the house. We then pivot to an ideation session. And the ideation session is really interesting because it takes a practical real world example that the students who are attending will actually think about, they'll brainstorm, they'll spitball stuff, they'll throw it up on the wall, see if it sticks. They'll work in smaller teams to come up with a solution. And then what we're going to do is, we didn't do this last year. We just kind of talked about the ideation session last year. But what we're doing this year is we're taking that ideation session and we're going to pivot it into a real world playbook that then the students can take away and take back to their organizations.
I absolutely love that. I heard a ton of just amazing feedback last year from this lab. People were so excited, and I think it's that interaction, that ideation, that hey, I have a problem that I think I could solve, and being able to do it right then. So it's like I'm excited. I wish I could go to this one. One of my struggles when I'm registering for labs, though, is I want to pick the right lab for me. I don't want it to be so hard that like I'm stressing out. I don't want it to be so easy that I'm bored, and I want it to be applicable to my day job. So for those of us who are still picking labs for registration, can you just share a little bit who would get the most out of this lab?
A great question. I think one of the things I failed to actually mention at the first part was really the title of the lab, which would really help, as well as some of the objectives behind it, who it's for and whatnot. The title of the lab it's really easy to find within the list. It's Mastering Tanium Automate, and it's real world use cases and playbook creation with Tanium. So the focus is real world use cases and playbook creation. If you look for that, you'll find our lab. The focus, the audience that we're looking for with this lab is really beginner to intermediate mix, IT professionals, security professionals, even government leaders who want to understand what their technology folks are doing and how they could potentially use automation to streamline the work. What we're trying to get after is, how do we reduce the workload on the limited human capital that we have within our environments? How do we reduce the code that we have to write from scratch? If we can do no code or low code type automation, how beautiful would that be? Think about removing duplicative tools or trying to orchestrate workflows that are normally complicated across multiple platforms, just bringing that all together to one platform. How about accelerating incident response? Taking threat response from a CVE that can be complicated to actually remediate, normalize it in a playbook, prove it out on your environment, and then roll that out in a standardized process that you can make repeatable without mistakes. Those are the things we're trying to increase the ROI on the staff.
Well, Sam, you are speaking the heart language of our audience because we thrive on automation here in the Tech Talks realm. So, could you just go ahead and show us just a quick teaser of what people are going to get to do in your lab?
So this is just a template. This is what we're going to frame the conversation about. So after the ideation session happens within the workshop, we'll come back from lunch, and then as a group, we're going to actually start building out a pretty complicated playbook. What it will do is it will allow you to step through all the different steps that we had brainstormed on and put them into practice. So what you're seeing here is a template. This template will have multiple steps to it that you can see down below. We start with verifying actual compliance situation. It could be anything from, does a CVE exist? Is it a type of workstation? Is it a particular OS that we're looking for? Then we notify the user in this playbook. We add a custom tag so we can track this from start to end of the process. And in this case, it's really interesting, and this is a template for quarantining the endpoint. We're assuming, at least if we execute this template, that this situation is so bad that we want to isolate the endpoint completely. So we're going to change the desktop background to let the user know what's happening and how to actually fix the problem. And then we're actually quarantining the endpoint in step 5 that you can see down below. I started this playbook a little bit earlier. And what you'll see is it's actually gone through its steps. So you can see the green check marks on the right-hand side, and I'm not going to get too much in the weeds, but it's actually going through the quarantine process right now on the endpoint. What's really neat about this template that you can build almost any workflow from, because you can add, remove steps, is that we have this manual instruction about halfway through. So it's going to go through, quarantine the endpoint, and we put this manual instruction in here just to have a stop where the user can verify that the endpoint is quarantining, that the custom background changed. So at this point in this workbook, we're not quite there yet, but we're far enough along. We should have seen the desktop background change. So I'm going to pivot over to the virtual session. We're going to go over to this Windows 11 endpoint that we executed it on. And what you see here is that the pop-up came up that said, hey, your endpoint was quarantined. We then had the Tanium pop-up that is a workflow, part of the workflow. And you can also see that the actual desktop background changed. And we have this like custom generic logo on here. What's neat is because we added a custom tag, you can actually pull up that custom tag within Tanium and uniquely identify why they quarantine the endpoint. So if you have top level help desk that is doing some operations center type level activities, but then you have technical folks down on the keyboard, they can actually research why this endpoint was quarantined and then help solve the problem if it can't be automatically quarantined. So this is just a template. We're using this as part of our workflow, and we're looking forward to actually seeing this play out in the actual lab as the students actually build their own version of it.
That is amazing. All of these workbooks that this one, and I've seen a few others that have been floating around, I am so excited because, like you said before, people want to just be able to string things together, to automate them, to get rid of human workload. A lot of times we just don't have enough people to do things. So with all of these workbooks that we're making, all of the fun, what's the takeaway for our users? What problems do you feel like this is going to just solve or help solve?
That's a great question. If you're going to spend 3 hours in a lab, I think it's really important to understand the actual solutions that you're getting out of it and what you're going to walk away with. I think from the initial discussion, we're going to understand what Tanium Automate brings as a foundation for autonomous endpoint management within Tanium's platform. It is hugely fundamental. And so understanding Automate, steps, playbooks, the activities that you're going to perform and the potential behind it will help frame all the other areas within Tanium that you might want to utilize when it comes to Automate. So think pivoting from a Tanium dashboard to an Automate playbook to kind of normalize the activity, or automated workflows to actually continually clean your endpoints for unused software that might be out there, reducing the vulnerability windows for vulnerability identification. I think that is probably the biggest thing. Working together as a team, creating a playbook, understanding how that playbook actually executes, and then being able to take that playbook will be providing those playbooks out, those templates out, so that you can actually walk away from the lab with something practical to take back to your organization and implement right then and there.
Well, Sam, wow, thank you for this intro. And like you said, this can be applied no matter what your role is in Tanium. You're going to be able to use Automate, and you're going to walk out of this with so many ideas like that session. And with your peers, you can talk about, well, we can do this and this and this now with Automate. So yes, that's going to be great. But for those of you who are watching, okay, you're probably not allowed to experiment with things like running with scissors and Tanium at work. I mean, we're talking about automating quarantine at scale. You don't want to play with that stuff, outside of a controlled environment like this lab, maybe. So come get to do some running with scissors and Tanium at Converge. That's why you're there in a controlled environment, to play and break stuff and learn stuff. That's the fun of doing labs at Converge, especially with experts like Sam and his team. So how do you get there? Well, in the show notes below, Josh mentioned we have a promo code for a free pass to Converge. Now, the thing you need to know is October 29th of 2025 is the registration deadline for labs and the CTF, if you're interested in that. And if you wait till the end, these labs might be full. Don't get caught that way. If you haven't already signed up for labs, go sign up right now. And so this is the two-part, 90-minute combined back-to-back lab session here for you that's going to be around Tanium Automate. So go look for that. And when you're registering for labs for Converge, use the code below for a free pass to Converge, which includes labs. Now, if you can't be with us in person, we would love to meet you in person. If you can't be there, then you can use that same code for a free virtual pass. We'll have a limited selection of labs available for remote attendees, so you'll still get to do some labs. I'm not sure if this one's in there. You'll just have to go look and see. So that's it for today's Tanium Tech Talk.
Until next time.
Go Tanium.